Born to Build podcast.
Welcome to Born to Build, conversations with the builders, founders, and pioneers driving change from the ground up. Now, something I won't be able to say about many other guests on this show, I'm joined by someone I've known her entire life. Quite literally. She also happens to be my sister, Tabitha Mee. Tabitha turned a creative passion into a thriving photography business, from capturing weddings with Illuminate Photography to telling family and brand stories through Grand Little Adventure. I'm looking forward to hearing more about her journey of creativity, reinvention, and building a business from the heart. So welcome to the show, my dear sister.
Woohoo! Yay! So exciting to be here with you, Sam.
Thanks for
Thank
agreeing
you.
to do this.
Thanks for the awesome intro. Makes me sound very exciting.
You are very, very exciting. I've known you for almost 38 years now, and you've always been a very exciting person to be around.
Oh, so kind.
Rewind the clock for us a little bit. What first sparked your love of photography 15 years ago?
Yeah, when I think back on that, I realized that it was something that I always was interested in. When I was a teenager, I would I'd cut magazine pictures out, and when I look back now, I'm like, actually, I wasn't looking at the photos because I thought they were pretty people. I was always interested in light and interesting compositions, and I would stick them into my journals, and write. It was always kind of part of my life, but I never really thought about it. And then later, when I was doing a little bit of visual art as part of my university, well, my very, very messy university career. At one point, I decided to do some visual art, and they suggested we get a camera. So I just got one of those I went to, what is that place?
Cash
That's
converters.
that's it.
Okay.
Literally, and bought like a 3 megapixel camera, if even that, and it was rubbish. So I would take my photos, and 3 seconds later, the photo would actually click. Started doing some research, and sort of figured out that there's good cameras and bad cameras, and then I used to do like a kids club that I ran with some beautiful refugee children. And I'd take photos of these children, and they would move, and then the moment was gone. And then I just started realizing, okay, what I want is an SLR camera. At the time, they didn't have mirrorless cameras yet. And I started saving up, and then it all kind of just flowed very naturally from there. Just fell in love as I
Yeah, I
all
mean,
that to know.
you definitely were the creative one in the family, always creating beautiful art and was always very inspirational.
Thanks.
Certainly, I didn't have many of those genes, but you certainly
Not
did.
true, actually. Not true. I think you do have some very artistic.
Creative, maybe, but maybe not so much on the drawing and on that side of things. But now, take us back when you first decided to, so this was initially a passion of yours. You started getting into it and tinkering a little bit, but then you turned that into an actual business. What did that process or that leap look like?
Mm. So, being at school, I was quite unsure of what I wanted to do after school, and I think I always was creative and I always loved art, and I really always felt the most at peace doing art. But I think there was some voice telling me that you can't be an artist. You can't do that creatively as a job. Um,
Mm.
and so I think I fell back on sort of my other passion, which was, I felt like I needed to do something that had purpose, and I felt for some reason I felt like art was not a purposeful thing to do. And so I decided to go into teaching, or I studied teaching and did that for 2 years. And what I found was, so by this point, I'd saved up for a nice camera, and I just was doing, I would photograph a leaf on the ground, and I would photograph, whatever came my way. And then I would post them on Facebook, and my friends would say, oh, can you do some photos of us? And then slowly I just started taking photos of random, doing little photo shoots with friends and that sort of thing. And then the next thing kind of flowed into some people asking for family shoots, and even then weddings quite early on. So I was doing that on the side while I was teaching. So I only taught for 2 years. And what I found was that it was very, very clear where my heart actually was, because I would it's not that I didn't love teaching, but I would do my lessons in the morning, and I would um, find that I just didn't have the drive to sit and mark late at night. Whereas, editing a shoot that I just shot, it stirred up that excitement in me. And I would very happily do 2 o'clock in the morning, editing up, sitting up late. Whereas, getting up in the morning to go to school, to go teach, it didn't excite me. So there was a point when it was very clear where my heart was.
And that didn't feel like work at that point, like because you could go late at night. It didn't feel
100%,
like work to you.
exactly. And I still to this day feel that way. I feel like,
Amazing.
if I wasn't getting paid to do photography, I'd still want to do photography. It really is. It's just, yeah, it just brings me so much joy. So, yeah, then eventually, I couldn't, it wasn't really sustainable being a teacher, and at the same time, the weddings started taking over, and it became quite hectic. And it just wasn't a lifestyle that I could have sustained for much longer. So I was ready after a year of teaching. Actually, I said I want to go full time. I think Michael, my husband, yeah, his advice was very, very wise, and he said, prove it first, make this work. Don't just jump into it. And I think that he wanted to see that I really was committed to this, and I was gonna, be in this for the long game. So then I did another year where I was more part-time at the school. I think I did 3 days at the school, and then, yeah, it was actually a very natural transition by the time I then went full-time into the wedding photography.
Sure, amazing. So take us back to the early days of the first clients. How did you even get your first clients? Like, how does that work when you're starting a photography
Yeah,
business? Like, clearly people can't look at a portfolio or anything like that. How do
exactly.
you get
Yeah.
started?
Yeah. Look, it was a very different time, and sometimes I feel a little bit sorry for people that are starting now, because I feel like you could say the market is a bit more saturated. But back then, um, what was it called? Gumtree.
Yeah.
That's literally how I started.
So like a
So,
classified site. Those
yeah,
of you who don't know Gumtree.
exactly. I literally did not have a portfolio. I didn't have experience, but I basically said, I'm looking to do weddings, and I said I would do it for 500 Rand and include an album.
Uh,
Absolutely insane, and I don't think that's the advice I would necessarily give people now. But I think there's also a little bit of naivety that came with that when I was younger, and I did those shoots, and I didn't have kids, so the time was obviously, I had much more time to experiment. So I started posting these weddings that I photographed, and engagement shoots and that sort of thing that I would advertise. And I just started posting them on my own private Facebook page.
mhm.
And then, more people would see that. And it kind of just, yeah, it quite quickly, one or two of the right clients came along.
Mm.
And, once you are in a circle of friends, then the word spreads quite easily. So then, often it would happen that I would photograph a bride and then four of her bridesmaids, or
Yeah,
the
okay.
siblings, or that sort of thing. So there were certain sort of church environments, especially, where we would photograph. We'd be photographing so many different. I say we because when Illuminate started, there was two of us
Okay.
working together, and then she actually moved to Johannesburg, and then I continued on my own. Um,
And you kind of,
yeah,
just explain that a little bit. How does it
yeah,
work? You got an extra shooter doing different angles, and then I think you swapped around as well. How did,
yeah. We actually we didn't go about it that way at the time. Look, I mean, I think there's a lot of things maybe we'd do a bit differently. I would do differently now. But we chose to sort of be quite, we're both doing both. So we would not split up. That was the very early days. We would both go photograph the bride and the groom. Um, and I'm like, when I think back on that now, it wasn't probably the necessarily it doesn't make the most sense. But I think we kind of felt like we are a team and we do everything together.
okay.
But I think, yeah, obviously you learn from that from your early days, and then later on I would shoot on my own, and then I would bring in a second shooter if
Okay.
it does work and work better that way.
Right.
Yeah. But I learned a lot from those early days, so it's not there. I don't have any regrets about that.
Mm. Yeah. And why weddings specifically? Was that a deliberate niche that you decided this is a great space to be in, or was there a natural entry point?
I think it's a combination of just the financial, if you're trying to make it work as as a full-time job, and then financially it makes sense to do something like weddings where you're getting big chunks of money as opposed to doing lots of little shoots. And then I also think that it was just also the stage of my life that I was in at the time. Friends were getting married.
Right.
You kind of just fall into it. It was the natural thing. And there's a lot of creativity. I did love it. I mean, weddings, they're never the same. There's a lot of challenges you learn. I mean, I learned so much doing weddings. I feel like um, if you've been a wedding photographer for a while, you can do anything.
Mm.
It's because
You have to
they throw
think on your
you
feet
into
and like
exactly
quickly,
challenging.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell us a little bit about
totally.
that. What are the things that come up that you need to quickly
Yeah.
think about?
I mean, lighting is huge. Learning to work with every possible kind of light, you might be in a dark stone church where there's only a little bit of window light coming in, or you might be in an environment where suddenly in bright light, you're shooting a ceremony outdoors and there's a big shadow on the bride's face and the groom is lit like directly by the sun, or you have
You
to work
can't exactly
with
pull up a screen or something like that to get the light
exactly,
right.
exactly. Yeah, so that's when you really get to know your equipment.
Okay. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, you mentioned some of those earlier days and the skills that you developed. Um, was that quite an important foundation for later as well? And what are some of those things that you learned early on that you still kind of lean
Mm-hmm.
back on now?
Well, funny enough, it's not actually, I wouldn't say it's technical. There aren't any technical skills that I say I wouldn't have learned in the journey. I think what I learned very early on is how important the people skills are. And I'm naturally
Yeah.
more of an introvert, I would say. I mean, you know that. But I think I had to kind of learn that so much of photography and it's not the photography itself, it's the fact that you need to get recommendations and people,
Mhm.
you will only get work, or a lot of the work comes by word of mouth.
Yeah.
And so the experience that the client has is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
And you can be an incredibly technical photographer or you can be a very artistic photographer, but if you don't have the people skills, no one's going to recommend you.
Mm.
And I think the experience, especially now, photographing mostly families, being able to relate to the people that you're with and just giving them a positive experience and that they feel comfortable and encouraged, I think that is such a big part of of being a photographer.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
because I guess
success.
um, it really comes through in your work as well. You can see there's a natural element to it. It feels more real and
Oh, thank you.
more authentic.
Mm,
And I guess you can't get that if you're not bringing that out of people,
engaging.
making people feel
Yeah,
relaxed when you're
yeah,
taking doing the shoot. So
totally.
yeah, I
Yeah.
totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And that's also like it's something you learn, I don't think that necessarily came naturally.
Mm.
But I think just realizing that how people feel in the moment is so, so important. It's just as important. And I think even just learning the art of small talk,
Yeah.
chatting while we're
Sure.
walking and being interested,
Mm.
not being interesting necessarily, not talking about yourself, but actually just like taking interest in the people that you're photographing and who they are and how they relate to their kids. And yeah, I think that is a big part of, becoming a successful photographer.
And translates to, I think, a lot of other businesses too,
100%,
right?
right?
People
Yes.
skills is such
Yes.
a key
So
skill
true.
to have as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, as a business
Yeah.
builder, because it's you're serving people, you're serving your clients, your customers,
Mm,
and so that really is just so key.
mm,
So at some point, you pivoted a little bit.
mm,
So when did that evolve away from weddings into something new? You started Grand Little Adventure.
mhm.
So what, first of all, I guess sparked this, I want to do something different, or how did that evolve essentially?
Yeah, it was a very natural process. I think, by about 5 or 6 years ago, or even longer ago, it was when Mason was born, my firstborn. Um, I had by that point probably shot about 300 weddings or something.
Mm,
And I think there's obviously, I would call it boredom, but there's a sense of being ready for a new challenge. But I think more than that, it was actually just a lifestyle thing. I carried on shooting weddings full time for about the first 2 years of Mason's life, and it really did have a cost on our family. I think I realized it took me too long actually to realize.
Obviously, lots of weekends
Exactly.
away.
And it's not just that it's a Saturday, and it's usually a full day because, you drive off, who knows, to Robertson. Sometimes you sleep over. And then it's also that I'm then a zombie on the Sunday,
Right.
maybe sitting in church and I'm falling asleep, or I'm just not really present the way I should be. And I think I just carried on doing that for so long. And then also it was like Michael solo parenting essentially on those days, and I think it just is not necessarily like some people make it work. I'm not saying you can't be a wedding photographer with kids. But I think figuring out that for us it actually wasn't really working so well. Doing an occasional wedding is one thing, but I was doing them most weekends at one point. And then also just I think I was very nervous around photographing kids because they're so unpredictable. And the moment I had my own, it just I thought that was the most beautiful thing, that you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was just an acceptance. And also realizing, like, what would I want? How would I want my child to be photographed? I wouldn't want them smiling at the camera all the time saying cheese,
Yeah.
It's those real moments in between that actually those are the photos that I want to look back on that remind me who my child is and what, their personality. And so I think coming into Grand Little Adventure from the start, I was very clear that I take on a documentary style approach, that I want to capture personality moments, and relationship connection,
Yeah.
more than just getting a beautiful posed photograph of your family, which is of course also there's totally a time and place for that. And I love me a beautiful photo, a family photo. But I think it was more that storytelling approach. I think that's also something that I kind of grew into with the wedding photography. When we started out, I was Googling different poses and that sort of thing, and then eventually realized that my also, again, as an introvert, I am more comfortable being the fly on the wall. So while I was saying it's very important to have that communication with your client, at the same time, there's also not overdoing it to the point that you're such a big presence in the room, So finding that balance.
Yeah, and I think it's awkward as well, like it's your wedding day, like, and you might not be used to having pictures taken of you all the time.
Exactly.
So I think having someone
Yeah.
just be very natural and
Yeah.
relaxed just really helps.
Exactly. And not making a wedding a shoot. It's not a shoot.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's a wedding.
Yeah.
You want to have the moments captured, but you don't necessarily want it to feel like,
Yeah.
there's all this equipment up in your face.
Yeah. So the switch to I guess Grand Little
Mm.
Adventure, I think there is such a thing. I was actually trying to do the maths quickly, but might have been the 7 years. But there is a thing called 7 year itch, apparently.
Yeah.
So maybe there was
And I'm
something to
getting
that as
there
well.
now, which is interesting, actually.
Well, maybe we'll get to that just now. Let's circle back to the future. But how did that brand transition go? Because obviously you got a strong brand. You had a strong brand with Illuminate Photography, and yeah, you wanted to transition to Grand Little Adventure. How do you
Yeah.
work on branding?
Right. So, I mean, I think what a lot of people do is they will stay under the same brand name and carry on and then just pivot. But I really felt that, and this was an inkling, and it came true, is that if you specialize in something, people take you more seriously. And I
Right.
think rather than thinking I'm going to I'm going to dabble a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I do, you get photographers like that, but I feel like I don't take them seriously. If someone asks me for a wedding photographer recommendation, I will give them someone who does weddings, not someone who does weddings and newborns and commercial stuff, whatever. And the same thing was true with families. There were family photographers, but there were no family photographers at the time that were purely doing families who had a more storytelling documentary approach. So so sort of starting that, I knew there was a niche in the market already. Not a niche, a gap in the market. And what I did is I actually it was so freeing in a way, because starting from scratch meant no one had any expectations of what my work needed to be or what it was like. So I literally started it quietly. I didn't even tell people about it. I started a little Instagram page and just started posting the kind of work that I wanted. And I approached specific families that I thought would fit that would fit with the look that I was sort of drawn to.
Mhm.
That was another mistake I made with Illuminate is, starting on Gumtree means that I was photographing purple and lime green weddings at school halls, which was a great experience, but there's a there's a limit
I
of
take
those.
it purple and lime green is not your color scheme that you.
I mean, yeah. Uh, yeah, sorry if you're listening to this and you had a purple and lime green wedding at a school hall.
It's allowed. It's allowed.
It's allowed, and also it might have been it might have been what I had chosen 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So,
Yeah.
you obviously
And there are
have a change.
photographers who love doing that. So.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly. And yeah, I really found that being very, very specific, was very helpful because very quickly I became known as, people would recommend me because I was a family photographer with a specific style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of just it spiraled. No, that's maybe a little bit, wasn't quite as quick as that. It probably took me about 6 months to build that up. So what I did in the beginning is I did quite a few free shoots and I had some like influencers and well, at the time they weren't called influencers, they were called bloggers.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, bloggers, I would photograph their family and they would do a blog about it and they would post it on Instagram and then, tag me and whatever.
Right.
It's like an exchange.
Yeah. So like
And that,
collabs with
yes,
other people who had already had an
exactly.
audience, probably the
Exactly.
right audience that you were
That's it.
targeting.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly. And I approached some artists as well. Well, actually, some artists approached me now that I'm thinking about it. And that was amazing because I just got exposure in circles that I really, that I like the people that I admired anyway, and then they also happened to have really good taste and generally it's amazing how much it's a sad thing as well in a way because I want to sort of be accessible to all sorts of people. I don't want to sort of say, oh no, I will only photograph this type of person.
Right.
But at the same time, what you put out there is what you get. That's just the reality. People will relate to what they see.
Mhm.
So
And you
yeah,
you use social media a lot. You put a lot out there.
yeah,
Obviously, that's the nice thing about photography.
yeah,
Your work can be put out there quite nicely. It's very visually stunning and very attractive. So, but you've obviously
100%.
leveraged that as a platform massively.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that is obviously as a creative of any kind, like social media is incredibly useful because it is so visual. And so it's an easy way to market yourself.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, social media has been a massive part of my growth for sure.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's also obviously the flip side of that coin.
Mm.
I think
There's massive volumes now as well, and because it's such an easy way to put yourself out there, I take it lots of people do that, and then
that's also part of it, yes, but also just the addiction factor of it.
oh,
I
okay,
think social
tell
media,
me more.
yeah, I mean that's been my biggest one of my biggest struggles is that so much of my value has come from other people's opinion of my work.
Right.
And which can be, it can put you in the highest high when you're getting lots of likes and follows
Okay.
and then of course it goes the other way, and when the algorithm changes just a tiny bit, next thing you're getting 2 likes and you start to doubt your entire existence as a photographer. And I think it's like that with any art form, and I think it can just it can actually be so, not to overuse the word, but toxic. I'm actually currently on a big break from social media or from Instagram.
Okay.
That was probably my biggest addiction. And it's actually in some ways you could say it's like a drug because I did feel that that the withdrawal symptoms of not getting all that attention, and then I'm kind of left thinking like, oh, like where is my value, where um is like, yeah, and I feel like I'm still in this process of trying to kind of piece that back together and figure out like who am I actually without this, without
Yeah.
the recognition of other people.
How long have you been on a break now then?
It was gonna be a 2-month break. I was gonna take December, January off now. What are we in now? Oh, July.
End of July.
Yeah, so and I just feel like I'm not ready. Yeah, it's feeling like a transformational time for me. Like
Oh.
I feel I'm wrestling with it a lot, and I feel like I'm not done. I'm not
Mm,
ready. I actually
yeah.
very briefly went on the other day because it told me that someone had tried to get into my account. So I thought I better go change my account. And honestly,
Like a
within
hacker or
half,
something.
yeah, well, yeah, someone was just, I don't know. But within half an hour, I was like scrolling down random content creators, not even their content. It was the comments on the people, on the things that they posted. And I'm like, what is this even? And then the comparison that comes with that. And
Mm.
it's a really hard thing. I think it's a really hard thing to get right. Um, if anyone has any advice, I don't know. I think everyone I know struggles with it. Everyone I know in the
In the
industry.
industry, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I really do hope that this break will give you some sense of, yeah, knowing your identity and, yeah, just feeling. I do like, especially when we started, there was real purpose in what you're doing.
Mm,
And I guess getting back to your
yes.
purpose and your why
Yes.
is I think sometimes often really helpful in kind
Exactly.
of those
Exactly.
valley moments.
And like I was saying earlier on, when I started, when I was thinking about what to study, I felt like, oh, there's no purpose in art, outside of myself. There's not much meaning.
Mm.
And I mean, even the name of your podcast kind of suggests that there is purpose in creating. We are born to create, and I think that was actually something Raph, one of our older brothers, said to me early on. I was struggling with it. I was saying, oh, I don't know if this is meaningful, and Raph said, um, like look at creation. Like
Mm.
if God did not care about, or if beauty was meaningless, then why would creation be so beautiful?
Sure.
And yeah, I've really clung onto that. I think it's art has meaning in and of itself because it is a reflection of the creator.
Mm.
But beyond that, it is also just being able to capture memories. I mean, I think, when I look back now on what I've been able to capture for people, and especially in the family space, because kids just change and grow so quickly. And I look back on my own photograph, and my own photographs of my own boys, and I treasure those moments captured so much. And I think, oh, what a gift to be able to give that to other people.
Yeah.
And also, it's like a we don't live perfect lives. Obviously, having kids can be really, really tough and it can be really chaotic. But, these family shoots are almost like we get to freeze the beautiful parts and, those moments of connection that we all feel so much, but sometimes they get almost overrun by all the other, all the other feelings of overwhelm. It's really beautiful. And I think it's meaningful to have photographs on your wall and for your children to see those photographs and, also have a sense of identity and belonging.
Mhm.
And yeah, I love that I get to do that for
Yeah.
people.
You more recently have also started to do some work for brands and productions. So first of all, did that come about?
So I've been doing local brand work for quite a while. I think that just naturally flowed out of the family photography and, local brands would approach me. But more recently, actually, it was very, very fortunate, I want to say. I photographed a family so the mom they're from the UK and the mom works for a global company in the UK. And she just kind of casually said, oh, would you ever be interested in doing some more sort of commercial stuff? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And I didn't really hear much. And then 2 years later, it kind of, I was approached by the company to do this massive um, corporate, not corporate even, but just commercial shoots. And it ended up being a production
Yeah.
because now they're in the UK and I did the shoots in South Africa. So it meant, you know, so I had a stylist on board. So between the two of us, we did all the, um, you know, everything, sourcing models, locations, wardrobe, um, logistics, everything. There's so much like planning. Um, yeah, I learned so much from that experience as well. And I think it's really, really cool because it also actually helps build up the local economy and market. If people are outsourcing to South Africa, it's obviously good for our local markets.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I want to sort of keep doing. And I think next time, next time I'll hire a couple more people.
Yeah, what are some of
Yeah.
those differences between like you're doing a family shoot versus a production? Obviously, very different beasts. So tell us a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of logistics, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, if I was hired as a photographer, which I thought I was, then that would be one thing, and I'd just come in and do my, I've done other brand work where I just came in. There was a stylist on board, and there was whatever the brand themselves would be quite involved. But in this case, because it was remote, there was no one representing. We kind of had to do all the art direction and everything ourselves. Yeah. So sorry, what was the the question?
The differences between like family shoots and doing a
Oh,
production,
yeah,
like it's very
okay,
different in terms of
yeah. The
business
feeling is
almost.
different. I think interestingly enough, I want to try and keep it feeling natural and real, and I think that's when you do get the believable photos. And so the bigger it becomes, the more people on board, the more people in the room, the more commercial it does start to feel.
Yeah.
And so I think I would never want to, get to the point where kids don't feel natural. They feel like they're acting, and that is the difference. Is that commercial is acting.
Mhm.
You're selling a product. You're not, capturing memories for people. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about because you want it to feel natural and real, but at the same time, I'm like, hold on, like, you're making me think now.
Mhm. Well, I mean, how much more powerful is it though if a brand can really bring out something beautiful and natural too?
Mm.
It's not just families. I mean,
Yes.
like it would be. I think that's what people connect with best often is
Mm,
when
mm,
even like a
mm.
brand isn't
Yeah.
like
I, th-
completely
I
fake.
guess the challenge is for me to choose to work with brands that are authentic and
Right.
are, where the product is it's something that I can support and
Yeah.
stand behind.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I'm trying to sell whatever a toy that is completely mindless, then maybe that's not the direction that I want to go in. Whereas it's so I've this big shoot that I did recently. It's an audio player, but the whole concept behind the shoot was that it's not a passive. It's you're listening to the stories, for example, and then the children are doing some play-doh or they're drawing or they are the idea is that it's engaged and it's encouraging them to sort of get creative and that sort of thing. So then I'm like, yes, I can get on board with that.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess there is a little bit of, I think anyone, if you're in the commercial industry, you've got to kind of ask yourself the question of like, what am I actually helping to sell here? Is it good?
Mhm. Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about talking about authenticity and let's be real.
Mm.
It's tough, right? Running a business solo,
Hmm.
especially.
Hmm.
What was possibly one of those bigger challenges that you can remember, and what brought you through that, and how did you navigate that?
Oh man, I mean, gosh, there's been so many little things that have happened over the years. Um, like you're saying, let's get real. I had a bride who was incredibly unhappy with her photos, so that happened to me. Um, I, sh- yeah, we were not a good match in the sense that for her it was all about
Sure.
how she looked and how my photos made her look
Mm.
visually, where I was going for the moments and the artistic shots and
You can't exactly redo the wedding now.
exactly. And her hair was out of place, and that was my fault. But it really made me question. And that's just one example. Obviously, you start to question yourself. You're like, oh no, am I really such a bad photographer? I think she said there were only 7 photos that she liked. It was bad. It was bad. It was embarrassing too, because you
It's a
put so
big
much
day in their
in your
life
work.
as well,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard.
And you're like, who is she talking to? And yeah, but I think I had to sort of take a step back and look at it objectively and realize that, I mean, I was there at the wedding and I could feel the vibes and I could sense how the relationships were and what kind of people they were. And unfortunately, I think there was just an overemphasis on the like the looks, the physical side of it. And she also wasn't happy with her makeup and all of that. And then to just be like, you know what, this does not actually mean that I am a terrible photographer. But it did make me feel like, oh, I remember thinking I'm done with weddings. After that wedding, I'm like, I don't want to do weddings anymore.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
because it is such a high pressure thing,
Yeah, it is a
Um,
lot of pressure.
yeah. And then there's been other things. There's been so many things. I've lost this was still when there was two of us for photographing, and I managed to lose a memory card.
Mm,
You know what? There was a shoot that I did where I didn't put the memory card in my camera. I started shooting. I could probably list off, I can't tell you at the top of my head, but I've made plenty of mistakes.
yeah.
And I've had moments.
How do you pick yourself up after that?
Yeah,
What are you,
yeah,
what
it's
advice would you give?
hard. Exactly. It is so hard. Um, I think, yeah, just to I mean, I've take practical steps to obviously avoid those things, those rookie errors, you know.
Yeah.
I have gotten a lot better about, you know, things like backups and cloud backups and um yeah, you know, in your camera you can set it that it can't take photos without. This was early on and, you know, early on when I was shooting. Um and yeah, I mean, the reality is that, you know, most people will be very happy with their photos, but there might be a mismatch every now and then, and that's not it's not personal. Not to take it personal, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and but also at the same time, not to fight back with fight fire with fire. Is that the right saying? I don't know. I think
Mm.
she came at me very aggressively, and it was hurtful, and I cried about it, and then I had to respond, but you know, I did it. I didn't defend myself, you know. I
Mm.
apologized that she wasn't happy with her photos. I think she threatened to sue even, if I remember correctly,
Sure.
but she never did. Um, but I think almost like what is the saying? Kill them with kindness, you know.
Amazing.
I think in that situation, like eventually she kind of I think she backed off because she realized like I don't like do I really have a case here? You know, well, I don't know, but I
Sure.
think it can just make things worse if we
Yeah.
try to defend in those situations.
Yeah, and I guess with photography, it is such a personal thing because you are the brand. In
Exactly.
wedding
Yeah.
photography, you are the photographer, and so I guess when there is criticism, it does feel a lot more
It feels
personal.
so
Maybe
personal.
if someone's
Yeah.
criticizing. I mean, even, I'm not saying that in another business is not. It's also hard. It's
Yeah.
also it
Yeah.
does feel personal when you
Yeah.
thing you've produced,
Yeah.
someone criticizes that. But I
Mm.
think it's even more so with when
Mm.
it's you.
It's an
You're the brand.
expression of your art. Yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone who's just about to go
Mm.
maybe full time or even, they've been trying a side hustle, they want to now go full time? Any advice that you have for someone?
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier. Um, counter like the opposite of what people say. People say, follow your heart, go for it, jump right in, just do it. I would say the opposite. I would say, take it slow and set yourself small goals and prove to yourself that you can do it. I think it is a little bit dangerous to. Okay, I do feel, let me rewind just a little bit. I do feel that your passion is going to dictate what you will succeed in to some extent. I think that you will find out how passionate you are when you realize what it entails beyond the creativity. So what I mean by that is, you know, you might have a dream of becoming an artist or whatever, starting a fashion brand or a photographer. But the reality is that in order to become a successful creative person of any kind, the job entails so much more. It entails, at the end of the day, sales is such a massive part of it, and selling yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you need to actually first almost prove to yourself that you can, not to yourself, prove that you are comfortable with the entire scope of the job, that it's not just
Mm.
I want to paint and I'm dreaming of painting all day long, because the reality is you're not going to be painting all day long. You're going to be going from gallery to gallery, trying to get people to believe in your art, which can also be quite demoralizing.
Mm. Yes.
Or, you know, in the case of photography, it means, yeah, it does mean having to be on social media, having to put yourself out there. And, you know, it takes a while till people are going to start liking your stuff. It's not going to be an immediate, overnight. You might be one of those lucky people who has such incredible talent that the talent just sells itself. But I think the reality for 99% of people is that it's a process, and you know, you got to keep pushing through and learning and learning and learning. And
So, yeah.
yeah, I think to yeah, don't no, I mean, I would say don't just quit your job, your day job. Um, it worked out well for me because I didn't have kids at the time, so I was able to do the late nights. I know that's very difficult if you're a parent and you've got a full-time job and now you've got another passion. But I think doing it smartly, if there's a way that you can slowly move away from the one and ease towards the other, I think that's the smart way to go about it. Um, yeah, worked out for me, and I'm grateful that I pushed through.
And looking back over the last 13 years, is there a moment, what do you feel like you're most proud of?
Hmm. Um, I think like what I was saying earlier on is the ability or the gift that I get to give to people of capturing, there's some families that have come back 6, 7, 8 times. They come back over the years, and they'll say, they still look back on their photos from when their child was 2 or whatever, and yeah, that they really cherish those moments captured. I think they only grow in value over time, and sometimes you don't get that immediate feedback, but yeah, it's the kind of thing that uh, yeah, if people actually do something with their photos and they don't become digital dust, because
Mhm.
that does happen.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm very proud of the fact that I get to do that for people.
Yeah. Beautiful. In closing, where can people find your work? Your handle on Instagram, even though you're not on Instagram right now, people can still obviously
You can
view.
have a look, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's actually funny.
I'm not on Instagram, so is it even called a handle?
It's called a handle as far as I know, unless it's changed. I mean, everything's
Okay.
changing so
Yeah,
fast.
maybe.
I keep on hearing new things, and I'm like, oh, but
How
it's
do people find you? How do they book?
Grand Little Adventure, which is also grandlittleadventure.com is my website. Um,
Grandlittleadventure.com.
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
Couple of rapid fire questions. Um,
Does that mean I have to answer rapid fire too?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You want to go into it further, but they're meant to be, yeah, no,
Quickie.
no deep questions here.
Okay.
Favorite lens or camera gear?
Okay. All right. My 35 mm 1.2 Sigma means probably absolutely nothing to you, but if there's a photographer listening, it's a dream. It's a dream. Yeah. I love that
Well,
lens so
I
much.
remember you actually gave me one of your old cameras at one point. I think that had a 35 mm lens on
Possibly.
it, probably.
Or
Yeah.
maybe a
It's a
50.
smaller
Yeah.
one, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
wait,
exactly.
yeah,
You can't zoom in and out. You have
yeah.
to walk around.
Okay, yeah. Can get the nice blurry effect, kind of.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, absolute amateur talking here. Anyway, let me shut up quickly. Dream location, dream shoot location.
Like what I would like bucket list kind of
Yeah.
thing. Oh, so many. Oh my goodness. Whew. I think anywhere with like colors. I mean, I love like, South America, India. Like I love that sort of thing of like lots of, I mean, maybe I'm just talking travel bucket list and I'd like to take some photos while I'm there.
Yeah.
And then also on the other side, I also love wide open spaces, anywhere with mountains. We're hoping to go to Ireland next year, so hopefully I'd love to do some photos there. Just anything with, yeah, big wide open spaces.
Lovely.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sunrise or sunset light?
Oh man, you know what? If I was a morning person, I would hands down say sunrise because the
Right.
odd occasion that I get up early enough, I am like, this is magical. It's a magical time of the day. Everything's quiet. You don't get the tourists running around you. It's really special. But the reality is like I really,
Unless you go to
really don't
Cork
like
Bay, I
mornings.
recently discovered. I went for a run in Cork Bay. I don't normally go there, but
Mhm.
man, it's busy at sunrise in Cork Bay.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
a lot
all
of
the
people,
Elbridge swimmers, of course,
and
yeah.
people are running. So sorry for those not in Cape Town. It's like a quaint town that
It's
people
totally a
very.
thing. Yeah, you go for your morning swim and then you go for your coffee at Dilbert Cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done is better or perfect is better.
Sure. That's a challenge to my personality because I am a perfectionist.
That's why I chose this one.
But I mean, I think the truth is, sure, sure. Sam, you got me now.
You can say 50-50 if you want.
Done perfectly. No. I, you know what? Sometimes it is just a matter of like you got to start. You got to start. And if you don't make that decision, then you're never going to go anywhere. And you got to try. So it's funny because I'm contradicting myself. Earlier I said, don't just do it. Don't like throw caution to the wind, like do your research, figure out that you like the entire job, that you're willing to do all the parts. But I've also tried so many other things and I failed. And I'm glad that I'm not regretful that I tried them. You know, at one point I thought I'd start a clothing business. Another time I thought, and that was when I realized my passion wasn't big enough to put up with the parts that I don't like. You know, I don't want to sit and package, and I don't want to sit and whatever. There's lots of things that are not that fun. Whereas photography, you know, I was very willing. The editing isn't, I get to listen to podcasts while I edit, you know. There's some perks. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, probably a combination. That was not a short answer.
No, good. Last one. Always know what to say or never say the wrong thing. Always know what to say or never say the wrong thing.
Wow. Wow, that's so deep. I've never thought about that. I'm leaning towards, I don't know, I've been challenged a lot lately with I mean, I suppose it's a biblical concept of like being slow to talk and quick to listen. And I would say, and I have to think. Say it one more time.
Always know what to say or never say the wrong thing.
Yeah, never. I would go with the second one. I'd go with the second one. I mean, I think it's also can come across a little bit arrogant and prideful, but we're also more likely to lean towards error, right? If we always have the answer, but I think again it's a balance.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sam. I'm so stoked. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
And wish you all the best with Grand Little Adventure.
Tick this off my bucket list of things to have achieved. First podcast done and dusted.
Nice.
Thanks, Sam.
Cheers.
Love you.
Love you.